everybody, this is Coach Parker with CoachParker.org. How you guys doing today? Hey, I've got a video that has been requested on how to install the 6-2 multi-8 youth football defense. So I thought I would jump into this. As always, I'm going to geek out on this, and this is a series of videos, really kind of going back through, I think, 5 teams and how I looked at the defense, about the rosters and competition, and how to get through that. So we'll talk about that today in this series. So the 6-2 multi-8 youth football defense is my defense and playbook that I've been using since about 2006. You can get that over at CoachParker.org. So you can head over there. It's also called Parker's Pirate Defense. The Pirates are the first team I used it on, and then the Raiders, which is kind of a pirate, I really solidified a lot of it back in 2010. So, well, let's get into, and it's not just about installing the 6-2 multi-8, which is base as a 6-2 wide tackle and a tight tackle, but it's really about kind of how to install any defense, and basically in my perspective. So before we jump in, please subscribe to the channel down below if you get a chance. YouTube ranks you higher in their results if you've got more subscribers and people that also hit the notify button. So if you can do that for me, that'd be great. You can also head over to CoachParker.org. I'm on Facebook also, and Twitter, so you can check those out. So let's get into this. So to me, installing the defense doesn't happen when practice starts or with the team. It happens pre-season, before the season starts, before the draft, and kind of what is going to happen and what I'm thinking about doing. Sure, there's multiple defenses out there that everybody's familiar with. Gap 8, 70, 6'2", 5'3", 5'2" kind of thing. So there's a lot of those out there, and a lot of ones that maybe other teams have used. That's one good thing or benefit about the 6'2 multi-8 is all of those base defenses are in this, because the 6'2 multi evolves into many of those. So but anyway, so you're looking at, you're kind of, before you make the choice and what you're going to do with your defensive scheme, I like to look at my roster, if I've got one. If I'm a new team, looking at possible new players, possible what's in the draft, what do I need to go recruit for. I have an idea probably what my base defense is. And my base defense has always been a 6'2", either a tight tackle or a wide tackle. Excuse me. And so that's kind of what I've always thought, even when I came up with the defense back in, when I was running some stuff back in the 90s, before I had kids and was coaching. So, I know kind of in my head what I think the base defense is, but I want to make sure I can adjust. I'm also thinking of, what blitzes and stunts and shifts kind of work. And so I'm looking at that, and then on what positions, am I going to need to fill on my roster based on any roster changes, or like in our league, we can only hold over 6 players going to the next season. So do we want to hold all 6 or not hold all? So how does that work? Who are we losing? What do I got to replace? Can I get these guys back in the draft? So I'm looking at all that, needs, wants, lost players, kind of where I'm going to go. And let's say, since I've been in this league for the last 10 years where I can save 6, and we normally are saving 4 to 6 players, I've got those 4 to 6 players. Those are my key linebackers, defensive end, contained guys, and probably D tackles or corners. And so from there, I kind of get an idea, okay, because I've got those guys coming back, I can probably do this. The other thing that I like to do is I'm kind of getting going is, what's my competition going to look like coming up? What are those offenses looks like. Are there any new teams, any new coaches? Do I have film on these? What was last season? Do we know the coach through some other body? From that, knowing kind of what's the competition looks like, what do I need to run as a base defense? Because if I'm going in, we've had some years, some seasons where the top two teams, three teams, they're heavy into passing or trying to pass and are pretty good of it. So I may not start out in a 6'2 wide tackle as a base, but maybe into the 5'2 monster, dragon, whatever I call it that season. So there's some things there. Is the competition heavy runner pass? If you're a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old team, that's definitely in the rec, not in a select kind of situation, it's probably heavy run, and so my schemes are going to be heavy run at that age group. So I'm not going to come out in a 3-5. And if I do come out in a 3-5, it's going to be blitz so much that it looks like probably a 6-2 or a stack. So, kind of look at that. The other thing is this a select league versus a rec league that you're going in? And is it a really highly competitive rec league? Or is it like a YMCA rec league? Are you in the B division of this league versus the A division or the C division? You really kind of look at the competition, the speed, size, and kind of matchups there and where that's going to have to take place and where your needs are to kind of based on what you think this base is going to be, based on kind of what you think the offenses are going to look like. Or some of these offenses that through, people know me that I've got this B single wing going on and this Notre Dame box kind of thing. And then I'm a double wing, single wing kind of thing. And that in older stuff, I run spread with kind of a spin double wing kind of stuff going on if I've got speed. So people know that about me, and so they know they've got to stop the B single wing. If they don't stop that, I'm just going to run wedge and B's tanks all day, and so they've got to deal with that. We're usually in the playoffs, so they know, okay, I've got a draft to be able to stop that. So, like that formation or offense, is there a running back, a receiver, or quarterback that may be on the last Super Bowl team or it's going to be the number one team? And look, I've been in new leagues and I find this stuff out, so don't tell me you can't find this stuff out. The way that I found this stuff out is I had lunch. I'll take the league vice president or league commissioners to lunch of my division, and I'll ask about competition and who's the teams to watch out for. You can find out if you want to find out what your competition's going to look like, unless it's just a brand new spanking league that everybody's put together. Most of the time these leagues have been together a while and you can find something. So hunt that down. So based on that, are there running backs? Is there a coach? Is there an offense that I know I've got to stop to get into the Super Bowl or into the playoffs? So I'm looking at that as I'm moving along. A lot of leagues now have rules about like the defensive front, like you can't have a nose guard, so you have to play out of the A gaps maybe, head up on the guards and not in the A gaps or on the center. So you can kind of play, you need to look at that and say, okay, this is my scheme here. I'm going to have to deal with that. Are there rules regarding minimum play time on defense, or is it all of the team? Is it halftime or the whole game kind of thing? How many plays is that? Do you have to rotate them in at different line versus skill positions? So you kind of got to look at that. If it's a select group, are there... Look, I've coached select teams, and even though there's not minimum play stuff, there's playtime politics that's going on. Is there a certain playtime politic? Because you want this guy on offense, he's got to play this on defense, or you can kind of get to that. The other thing is roster size, which is going to affect playtime and MPP. And if you're going to platoon on offense, defense kind of thing, and how that's going to work out. So you kind of have to look at all those. This is all that pre-defensive planning. And look, the best time to do your reading and studying is in the off season when before practices start. So if you're thinking about this, this is where my book's a great read because I've got a lot of stuff in there. It can be as simple or as complicated as you want, and I've got a lot of defensive stuff in there. So just looking at that. The other thing, that I like to look at, is what is your goal of your defense? The defenses that I run are attacking defense, especially at the youth level, because it puts so much pressure on the backfield that I want to stop the backs in the backfield and not let them get a head start on me, and it just causes a lot of disruption. There's a lot of defenses that are more in a passive role where they're kind of break, don't bust. So, I consider kind of a 5-3 more of a non-penetrating defense. They're two gapping. The linebackers are picking a lot of things up. So there's that kind of thing. Or are you attacking with your DNs, your containment, or are they sitting soft? Do you need to stop the run? And there's only like one team maybe that passes and they're not a problem, so you can run a heavy run defense and make adjustments for one team? Or is the league pass happy and there's a lot of guys that can complete passes? That's the other thing. Your league may be a passing league, but do they complete passes? I love teams that pass that complete nothing. Love that. Then you've got to ask yourself, if it is a passing league, do I have the rushers to rush and not worry about coverages? And do I want to play, man-to-man or zone, and what is there? So that's some kind of strategy in the defensive planning right there, especially around players and league. So here's some stuff that we talk about on your final roster before practice on defense, still kind of preseason, and you're looking at, so does your defense allow you to create options? You're going to have options. You can adjust, edit, and delete what you need to do on defense. You can't just be so tied into something. You may want to run a 4-3 or 4-4 defense, but if you don't, especially on the 4-4, a lot of people like to run a 4-4, and really a 4-4 is just a 6-2 with the DNs backed up. I like it, but at the youth level, at least in rec, if you don't have good blitzing linebackers and linebackers that can read, if you're running a 4-4 and you're containing guys outside, DNs are not that great, you can get chowed on with a 4-4. So you got to really kind of be open if you're going to run this 4-4 or 3-3. Can I move into a 6-2 or a 5-3 really quick and put people on the line of scrimmage and really do a better job? So just make sure you have those options, because just because you pick something, sometimes you can't force that on your talent. And it's always about adjusting offense or defense formation to the talent. And like I said before, that's the advantage of my defensive playbook that I've got over sale at coachparker.org, is it gives you multiple fronts and formations and just enough to look at all those. And if you want more, you can certainly contact me, email, or request a video, and I'll get you some more information. Or you can go research more on a particular front that may not be. But there's a lot of information. It's almost 300 pages of information in a PowerPoint kind of doc that's in a PDF, along with Microsoft Word, and a lot of detail there. You can't really force a defense on your players. It might not work, although players love to play defense. And so if you've got highly aggressive kids, especially at young ages, if you just get a lot of guys up close to the line of scrimmage, that defense will pretty much work. The other thing, as you get older, I'm a big deal on my defensive ends in the 6'2 wide tackle. We have a very specific way we play, and in the 6'2, the DNs are really outside linebackers that are on the line of scrimmage, called Will and Sam for wide and short side, and Sam is on short side. Yes, I know that's different, but it's because it's wide for Will, S for short, and it helps the guys remember. But the DNs at our defense are really play a particular way, and we really focus on how they play, and so we want to make sure those are our top guys we've got. The next guys is do we have more linebackers or defensive linemen, which is going to tell me, can I run a 5.2 or 5.3, or do I need to go to a 6.2 or a 70? Because I got a big old huge, nose guard that I can play, and I can back somebody up in a linebacker position, or I've got just enough D linemen that are awesome and only really 4 or 5 skill guys, so 70 will work. So these are all kinds of questions. Do you have a lot of A-gappers or corners that you got to deal with? A lot of times the 6'2 gives you a lot of opportunities in A-gaps and at Fred, or maybe a weak side corner to hide some people for a couple of plays. So there's some things there. Where your experienced players versus rookies on the depth chart, how that's going to work out, and where you're going to put those. Ridge fronter formation will work for your planning based on this roster. And when I get the roster and after the draft, I start putting names in. Even in the draft, I start putting names in before the draft of, if I get these guys, where they're going. Okay? And then I'll start thinking before practice, once I kind of get this pre-practice depth chart, where the problem areas are going to be based on what I think I want to run. Am I going to have MPP issues on offense and defense? We have coaches meeting that talks about, you're going to take these guys, I'll take these guys, we're going to wash this through. And then are there any new league or actual league rules that I haven't thought about that are going to be, hindering what I'm trying to do for players and my fronts and shifts and all this stuff? And so I'm looking at all this and kind of going through that, and then I'm going to, make this determination before the first practice, what am I going to install on this first day, first week, first scrimmage, and then kind of move from there for the first month and then the first game, and then how we're going to move in through the next 8 to 10 weeks through the Super Bowl. And that's where we're going. So basically in this first install here is I've looked at my competition, I've looked at my players, I'm looking at my final roster now that I get it. I've said, okay, this is what I think I'm going to do. I've had some ideas, and now I'm looking at, okay, here are all these youth football defense. Now majority of these, I think except for the 5-4 and 3-5, are in the 6'2 multi-8 youth football defense, my playbook that's for sale over Coach Parker. All of these, this first group is, 1 through kind of 7, 8, is kind of this multi 6'2 thing that I play with a lot. And then you've got the 5'2 monster, 70 umbrella. I'm working on a 5'4 defense add-in. There's a 4-3 passing defense called the Pick 6. And then there's a 3-5 defense that I've used on a couple of teams when we've stacked and backed out, and I'll probably add that. That's kind of new there too. So this is 80% of this is outlined in the book. You have a lot of choices to choose from. Like I said, you can be as simple as choosing one of these schemes or 3. I usually go with a couple, but you've got all these defense. And in the future, we'll go into all these on the installs for each of these and how I do that. So these are all those. So let's talk about, what does the book say for the install on my stuff? Because a lot of the guys that get my book ask, what's your install? Well, on page 80 through 84, it talks about age group. There's an age group matrix, which we'll show you here in a minute. And it talks about ages for the defenses. And then there's kind of an intro scheme for the first practices. We do a progression installs over weeks for all of these. And then when we get to the first game, we've pretty much run some base stuff that I've chosen. And then each week, I'll add or change something for a specific opponent to give the opponent a little scare so I can stop their top 5 plays or their main running back. But they will be shown something new that they haven't really seen over base to kind of stop what they're doing, which really helps. And that's how we progress, is as we hit a new opponent, we kind of add little things that tweaks what we can do to stop an opponent. So let's talk about what's in the book. This is in the book. This is a defensive chart. This is to be looked at, and you've got to adjust what you think can happen here. But from 5 to 6, those are little cats. It's like herding cats. Even to 7, it's like, oh my gosh. I pretty much always do my install. I'll install the 6'2" wide tackle and talk about those positions. And then we'll move to, either a 70, a 6'3". Gap 8 I always install for goal line. But it'll either be the 6'2" wide tackle and the 70 most likely. The 6'3", I just, you don't have to call anything. You just move Fred down and they still understand it's a 6'2". But you could kind of do that. Usually just choose 2 of these. And so I would pick a gap 8 and something else. To be quite honest, I've run a gap 8 and a 70 defense with 6'2" up until like the 8-9 group. A 70 really works out well, especially if no one's passing. Then gap 8 for that. But you can see that you can kind of start adding. And then by 11, 12, I've been able by the end of the season have installed all of these fronts, and they understand base responsibilities to these. Instead of blitzing, really, I'm just moving players into different kind of fronts and schemes, and then they know those responsibilities. I don't do a whole lot of blitzing. The blitzing is like a 3-3-45 or a kind of 21 stack where I'm stacking on guys, 3-hole, 4 or 5 hole, 2 hole or 1 hole kind of thing, and 3-3 is just everybody's kind of stacked in a normal tackle, center, other tackle kind of thing there. So, and there's a few blitzes that we'll do with corners and Fred coming up into a fight for the 6'3", but you can kind of see and choose what those are. But really, what the first day of practice, if you're wondering, I am going to go over the 6'2" wide tackle and kind of those positions and kind of what works there. And I may lay cones down or T-shirts of offensive players and put people in and talk about those responsibilities. I will also have, for at least 8-year-olds, we will try to hold a linebacker DN clinic pre-practice for the first couple of days on my skill guys to talk to them specifically about what linebackers and the defensive ends and the corners do usually, and how that's all going to work. And then there's a drill called the Contain Pod, which is on my website and in the book, which drills specifically the D-tackle, the linebackers, the corners, and the DNs on what those responsibilities are in that drill. So that's kind of where you've got your roster, your pre-plan on what you want to run, and then you're getting to the couple of days before the first practice. You're deciding, okay, what am I going to install? You've kind of got this chart, and I install 1 or 2 and nothing more a day. I won't go into like overloading, and kind of where I'll install a little bit, they'll start looking confused, I'll pull back a little bit, and then every practice I'll try to put in something a little new. Something new there. And we'll talk about this more in the series as we go further. But every practice I will try to add something new and we build on that on progression. For younger kids, I probably won't add too much the whole season, maybe tweak something for opponents, but really from 5 to 7, I'm really not making a whole lot of changes. The intricacies start at 8 or 9. If I've got a select team now at 7, that may move that back, but definitely 5, 6, 7. It's really hard to get much out of those guys. Just stay in a base 6'2" wide tackle gap 8 or 70 or 6'3". Set one of those, and you'll probably be fine. And just teach them to be highly aggressive. Okay, so that's really the first part of the series, though, about how to kind of what to choose. We're about to get into the first day of practice. Future videos is I've got 5 different rosters and seasons, and kind of what I used in defense and how it related to those teams and kind of decisions I made. I'll go through practice install details, first day, week, month, game week, season, playoffs, Super Bowl, how that works out. Common problem areas, weaknesses in the defense, or what maybe I adjusted for opponents. How do you install for opponent? How do you scout? What's going on there? What's the install process looks like? What are the drills that I'm doing as we're installing? I can tell you, every day you've got to tackle and do Seahawk tackles. I'm the big Seahawk tackle guy. But every day you've got to be tackling. You can't miss a tackle drill. So you definitely have to put 20 minutes in every day, or 15 for your tackling drill. We just do a quick angle, if anything, and it doesn't have to be specific, but they must tackle every day, every day, every day. That has to be a given. So here we can just go through some quick rosters, because a lot of you guys are like, what teams? And what? It really becomes down to the teams, and I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to run through this really quickly. There's 5 rosters. So there was a Colts team, and I'm using different names. It was a 7-8U team. It's a brand new team. We got to the playoffs. We only lost in regular season and to the playoffs to the Super Bowl winning team. We almost got into the Super Bowl, but they changed up the bracket that season. But anyway, that still gets me. But yeah, that team was a newly formed team. We had to go through the whole thing, and so 7-8-year-olds, we got through that. The Golden Eagles, they had been a 7-8 team that got together. We then moved them into 9-10. They were a runner-up to the Super Bowl there in the playoffs. They lost to runner-up of the winner in the Super Bowl. Buffaloes was the Super Bowl winning team. Got some guys back from that. Wildcats, another Super Bowl runner-up team. And then the first 4 there were all kind of very good recreational teams. And then the Vandals was a select team that was handpicked and had been together for many years. And awesome team there. So you kind of get, some pretty good teams. And look, all of these teams, we had these teams and had to get through those teams. The Colts, Buffaloes, and Wildcats, we had to basically redraft every year. We'd only keep 4 to 6. The Golden Eagle team, that was a B recreational team that we just kept the same roster, but they were given to me by the league. We recruited a couple, but it was really a kind of here it is, and this is what you got. And then the Vandals, of course, is a select team, which coaches had handpicked over the years, and I was a new coach to that team. And then we can go through the 5 teams competition review, and we'll do this probably on the next video, and where they were and how we found out what the competition looked like. So that's the first series of the install of the 6'2" multi-8 youth football defense, which is my defense that I use all the time, which is, you can buy that playbook over at coachparker.org. Coaches, thanks for joining me. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you liked it, if you didn't, you know what you can do. There's also a button down there for that. Please leave me comments. Love if you want a video specifically, if you run my defense or not, but you want to know something, leave me a comment, ask me a question down below. Again, this is Coach Parker with CoachParker.org. Hope you're having a good coronavirus lock-in. We are here, and that's why I'm doing some more videos. Again, it's Coach Parker with CoachParker.org. Remember to play for fun, and winning is funner. Ciao, guys. Be safe. Stay healthy.